The human mind is also a hologram, which attunes itself to the universal hologram by the medium of energy exchange, thereby deducing meaning and achieving the state which we call consciousness. Hello friends! Today we are going to be reading the analysis and assessment of gateway process because something led me back down this rabbit hole. Where's the camera at? I think you guys are over there on my iPad. I'm filming on my iPad, not my phone. But something led me back down the rabbit hole of bringing me back to this document, and specifically the part where it talks about the universe being an egg-shaped simulation, basically. Like, we're a cosmic cum shot is what I called us yesterday. I called us a cosmic cum shot, and because that's basically what we are, according to this entire document. So I really want to read through the entire 29 pages and see what kind of little nuggets of knowledge we can get from this, because I feel like there's so much hiding in this, because the past 2 years my hyperfixation has been declassified documents and psyops, military psyops, and FOIA logs and stuff like that. I actually did a couple FOIA log requests on my first account on TikTok that got banned, and I need to follow up on those because they had some really interesting answers that tell me that there's a lot more that I should be seeking. So I really want to see what all we can find in this, because I feel like we're about to find some really interesting stuff. So we're just going to read the entire 29 pages and see what it gets us. So it says it was approved for release on 9/10 of 2003. And this document is from the June 9th of 1983. So that means it was 20 years later it was finally released for us to read this. So keep that in mind for right now, because that means the stuff that's going on right now, we're going to be hearing about everything getting released in another 20 to 30 to 50 years, probably. They're actively doing stuff worse than this right now. They never stopped any of this. I want y'all to keep that in mind while we read this. They never stopped the psyops. They never stopped the FOIA log stuff. They never stopped the weird experimentation on humanity. They've just been making it weirder and more covert and more branched out under more contractors and shit like that. It's all so connected. So let's get into it. Mind you, 29 pages. So this says, Department of the Army. Every single branch of the military is complicit in this weird psyop shit. Every single branch of you motherfuckers has done weird shit against Americans and basically every other country at this point. So Department of the Army, U.S. Army Operational Group, U.S. Army Intelligence and Security Command in Fort George G. Meade, Maryland. Interesting that this comes out of Maryland, and it has the little Department of Defense logo at the top. And the acronym IAGPC-O. I don't know if that means anything to anyone. Army is Army. All of the branches are complicit, baby. I promise you, after reading the psyops and FOIA logs that I have, every single branch of our military is complicit in some really weird experimentation against Americans, like Operation Lack and Operation Sea Spray, and there's literally countless number of examples of weird shit that these people have been doing against us, and I don't like that. My dad's Air Force, or ex-Air Force, he did 22 years, but he was also a defense contractor for Lockheed Martin and Pratt & Whitney and Boeing and NASA. He controlled black budgets. He's complicit in this stuff too. It's all connected, baby. It's all connected. Okay, and this was addressed to Commander. And then I don't know if that's interesting. They didn't name the commander because there's no blacked out chunk after that. So it just says Commander. I don't know if that feels like that means something. Commander, U.S. Army Operational Group, Fort Meade, MD, Maryland. 1, you tasked me to provide an assessment of the Gateway experience in terms of its mechanics and ultimate practicality. As I set out to fulfill that, tasking it soon became clear that in order to assess the validity and practicality of the process, I needed to do enough supporting research and analysis to fully understand how and why the process works. Frankly, sir, that proved to be an extremely involved and difficult process. Initially, based on conversations with a physician who took the Gateway training with me, I had recourse to the biomedical models developed by, I'm going to butcher this name, it almost looks like Isaac, but it's Itzhak Bentov, to obtain information concerning the physical aspects of the process. Then I found it necessary to delve into various sources for information concerning quantum mechanics. The military and government is really, really obsessed with quantum mechanics and energy manipulation and distortion and scalar interference and all kinds of really weird stuff concerning energy and frequency. Just saying. Reading a CIA gateway document on military experimentations, share your theories. Oh wait, that's not a comment. Oh my god, why is there AI summaries on my live? Is there a way to turn that off? I thought that was you guys commenting something. I hate that it gives an AI summary. I want to opt out of that. I don't like that. But yeah, so they're talking about needing to delve into quantum mechanics for this thing for the US Army in order to be able to describe the nature and functioning of human consciousness. I had to be able to construct a scientifically valid and reasonably lucid model of how consciousness functions under the influence of the brain hemisphere synchronization technique employed by Gateway. Once this was done, the next step involved recourse to theoretical physics in order to explain the character of the time-space dimension and the means by which expanded human consciousness transcends it in achieving Gateway's objectives. So they talk a lot about time and space and dimensions and our entire universe and some really weird shit. Finally, I again found it necessary to use physics to bring the whole phenomenon of out-of-body states into the language of physical science to remove the stigma of its occult connotations and put it in a frame of reference suited to objective assessment. So they're literally talking about how they're wanting to combine the like woo-woo of energy and the actual like science-based stuff. Everything is energy, everything is frequency, and they know this. They have been studying this for over 100 years and how it is all interconnected. I began the narrative by briefly profiling the fundamental biomedical factors affecting such related techniques as hypnosis, biofeedback, and transcendental meditation, so that their objectives and mode of functioning could be compared in the reader's mind with the Gateway experience as the model of its underlying mechanics was developed. Additionally, that introductory material is useful in supporting the conclusions of the paper. I indicate that at times these related techniques may provide useful entry points to accelerate movement into the Gateway experience. So what I'm hearing here also is MK Ultra is another one of those things that didn't ever die. It just changed names. They just changed what they were doing. They're still experimenting with mass hypnosis and especially how to implement frequency into that. I think it also connects to scalar interference and the algorithmic energy harvesting and all of that. It's all interconnected. And they just keep giving us little puzzle pieces if we're smart enough to read and put them together. It's all like a massive game to them. Niels Bohr, the renowned physicist, once responded to his son's complaints about the obtuse nature of certain concepts in physics by saying, "You are not thinking, you are merely being logical. The physics of altered human consciousness deals with some conceptualizations that are not easily grasped or visualized exclusively in the context of ordinary left brain linear thinking." So to borrow Dr. Bohr's mode of expression, parts of this paper will require not only logic, but a touch of right brain intuitive insight to achieve a complete comfortable grasp of the concepts involved. So they're talking about using not just your logic and your mind, but also your gut and your intuition and the things that you know, that you feel, that they have spent like trillions of dollars at this point trying to propagandize you out of believing is a real thing that you own, that you exist, that you are connected to primally, that is inside of you, that is like your right to access as a human being, you know? Nevertheless, once that is done, I am confident that their construction and application will stand up to the test of rational critique. Paradoxically, having gone to such great lengths to avoid trying to render judgments based on an occult or dogmatic frame of reference, in the end I found it necessary to return, at least briefly, to the question of the impact of the Gateway experience on common belief systems. I did so because although it was essential to avoid attempting to render an assessment in the context of such systems, I felt that it was necessary, after having completed the analysis, to point out that the resulting conclusions do not do any violence to the fundamental mainstream of either Eastern or Western belief systems. Unless that point is clearly established, The danger exists that some people will reject the whole concept of the gateway experience in the mistaken belief that it contradicts and is therefore alien to all that they hold to be right and true. That is a huge thing. People do not like coming out of their comfort zones, especially for this woo-woo stuff, especially for the stuff that is happening right now and the stuff that we have paper trails for. Do I like Trump? No, I hate Trump. And I think he is a very bad man doing very dangerous things with a lot of people's lives and ruining our entire economy. I do not like that little orange man at all. Where were we? This study is certainly not designed to be the last word on the subject, but I hope that the validity of its basic structure and of the fundamental concepts upon which it is based will make it a useful guide for other USA INSCOM personnel who are required to take the gateway training or work with gateway materials. Interesting. So I'm not sure what that acronym is. Let's look that up and see if we can figure out what that is. U.S. Army Intelligence and Security Command. Interesting. So they're talking about, I don't know if that's like common that the universe, or not the universe, that the Army uses the gateway process. It says take the gateway training or work with gateway materials. Like they do this a lot. Like they're having the Army personnel do some weird out-of-body stuff like on the regs. Like that's just like a Tuesday for them. And then it's signed Wayne M. McConnell, LTC MI, Commander Det O, whatever that is. So every single one of these men that is complicit in these psyops I do not like. I hate every single one of y'all that is responsible for this shit. We would be in such a better place if y'all weren't doing some weird, secret, sketchy stuff with our taxpayer dollars and harming us and experimenting on us like lab rats. Okay, let's see. We are on to page 3 of 29 now. The gateway experience, brain hemisphere synchronization in perspective. The introduction, in order to describe the Monroe Institute technique for achieving altered states of consciousness, the gateway experience involving brain hemisphere synchronization, or hemisync, the most effective way to begin is to briefly profile the basic mechanics which underlay operation of related methods such as hypnosis, transcendental meditation, and biofeedback. It is easiest to effectively describe what gateway is by beginning with a short description of those associated techniques that share some common aspects with the gateway experience, but which are nevertheless different. In this way, we can develop a frame of reference at the outset, which will provide useful concepts to explain and understand gateway by comparison as we proceed. 2. Hypnosis. According to the theories of psychologist Ronald Stone and the biomedical engineering models of Itshak Bentov, they spelled his name differently than they spelled it above here. Okay, I don't think that's two different people because it's a very rare name. Hypnosis is basically a technique which permits acquisition of direct access to the sensory motor cortex and pleasure centers and lower cerebral emotional portions and associated pleasure centers of the right side of the human brain following successful disengagement of the stimulus screening function of the left hemisphere of the brain. The left hemisphere of the brain is the self-cognitive, verbal, and linear reasoning component of the mind. It fulfills the function of screening incoming stimuli by categorizing, assessing, and assigning meaning prior to allowing passage to the right hemisphere of the mind. The right hemisphere, which functions as the non-critical, holistic, nonverbal, and pattern-oriented component of the brain, appears to accept what the left hemisphere passes to it without question. Oh, they've definitely weaponized that. If they know there's a way that they can bypass parts of our brain, it's definitely like 1,000% it's connected to our ads and our algorithms and as many parts of this society and how it functions as freaking possible. 1,000% they've weaponized this if they were writing about this in the 80s. Consequently, if the left hemisphere can be distracted either through boredom or through reduction to a soporific, semi-sleep state, external stimuli to include hypnotic suggestions are allowed to pass unchallenged into the right hemisphere where they are accepted and acted upon directly. This totally has to do with doom scrolling and all of the anxiety and the fear that it's feeding us. They're harvesting our energy through that and scalar interference with the algorithms. They're bypassing our brains. Like 1,000% that's what's happening. Y'all gotta read the CIA documents on scalar interference. They put this shit in watches back in like the 50s. Tesla watches was what they was called. A scalar generator. This stuff is so unreal. This is crazy to read. The result may involve an emotional reaction originating in the lower cerebral region, sensory motor responses requiring involvement of the cortex, and so on. So wait, that means they can make us have emotions and they can make us move. Sensory/motor responses and emotional reaction. So this is not only mental, it's physical. That they're able to affect us MK Ultra style with this shit is what I'm picking up on. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, I'm processing this on like every level as I'm reading this to you guys. Both the sensory and the motor cortices of the right cerebral portion of the brain contain a sequence of points known as the homunculus. That's a weird, okay, which is out there, that's weird. Which corresponds to points in the body, which reminds me of chakras. See Exhibit 1, next page. Stimulation of the corresponding area on the cortex causes intermediate response in the associated portion of the body. Consequently, induction of the suggestion that the left leg is numb if it reaches the right hemisphere unchallenged and is referred to the appropriate area of the sensory cortex will result in an electrical reaction being generated that will induce the feeling of numbness. Are y'all picking this up? Even though there's nobody in the chat right now? Holy shit. If the left leg is... If there's a suggestion the left leg is numb, it will result in an electrical reaction being generated that will induce the feeling of numbness. So they can hypnotize you to be mentally, physically asleep or do whatever actions they want you to do is what I'm getting out of that. Similarly, the suggestion that the person is experiencing a general feeling of happiness and well-being would be referred to the appropriate pleasure centers located in the lower cerebral portion or in the cortex of the right hemisphere, thereby inducing the suggested feeling of euphoria. Yeah, some MK Ultra type shit, but without the drugs. They're able to just hypnotize you with these sound waves and these frequencies to be happy or sad or however they want you to feel. Wow. Finally, suggestions such as one that informs the hypnotic subject that he enjoys enhanced concentration or powers of memory would be responded to in the right hemisphere by accessing unused information storage capacity normally held in reserve as a result of left hemisphere selection and control processes. This aspect will become significant in the context of the gateway process when attention is given to examining the way that hypnosis may be used to accelerate progress in the early stages of the gateway experience. 3. Transcendental meditation. On the other hand, transcendental meditation works in a distinctly different fashion. In this technique, intense and protracted single-minded concentration on the process of drawing energy up the spinal cord ultimately results in what appears to be creation of acoustical standing waves in the cerebral ventricles, which are then conducted to the gray matter in the cerebral cortex on the right side of the brain. As a result, according to Bentov, these waves will stimulate and eventually polarize the cortex in such a way that it will tend to conduct a signal along the homunculus, starting from the toes and on up. Wait a second, so that's crazy. If you concentrate on drawing energy up your spinal cord, it makes waves in your brain. Meditation. That's what they're literally telling us. You're creating sound and frequency waves. I just got a synchronicity there. You're creating sound and frequency waves by meditating is what this is saying right there. And then it's got some crazy, let me show you all the visuals. Let me move my candle out of the way so I don't burn myself. I'm gonna show you all the visuals, because look at this. Look at this first one. I don't know if y'all can read it all, but that's some crazy. These get insane. Just wait till we get into the ones where it talks about how our universe looks. But it says, let's see. I'll show you all both full pictures right there, and then scroll down. Like, that's the amount of stuff that they're studying with all of this is actually insane. What does it say? Polarization of gray matter chooses progression of symptoms. Sensory cortex homunculus. Gray matter, white matter, stimulus loop, pleasure center. Motor cortex, sensory cortex. Yeah, so they know all about our brain and how the energy works with all of this, is what I'm getting. The Bentov biomedical model, as described in a book by Lee Sanella, MD, entitled Kundalini Psychosis or Transcendence. So the government is studying Kundalini awakenings. The government is studying Kundalini awakenings. And all of the woo-woo energy shit. They are pouring trillions of dollars into this and then telling us it's woo-woo. States that the standing acoustical waves are the result of the altered rhythm of heart sounds, which are occasioned by prolonged practice of meditation, and which set up sympathetic vibrations in the walls of the fluid-filled cavities, which compromise the third and lateral ventricles of the brain. So meditation literally makes your brain connect with your heart and produce waves from your gray matter, is what I'm getting from this. That's actually, do you guys understand how crazy that is? Your entire body is so connected to itself and to the energy around you. Everything is energy and frequency. This is the kind of stuff they are studying. This is the kind of things they are saying. In addition, according to Bentov, the states of bliss described by those whose Kundalini symptoms have completed the full loop along the hemispheres may be explained as a self-stimulation of the pleasure centers in the brain caused by the circulation of a current along the sensory cortex. So if you meditate and you do spiritual work and you have a Kundalini awakening, your brain is literally self-sustaining a pleasure loop, is what that is. It literally changes how your mind and your body work, is what this is just saying. Bentov also notes that most of the described symptoms start on the left side of the body, means that it is mostly a development occurring in the right hemisphere. Although normally a period of meditation involving intense concentration and practice for 5 years or some is required to bring up the Kundalini, Bentov states that exposure to mechanical or acoustical vibrations in the range of 4 to 7 hertz cycles per second for protracted periods may achieve the same effect. So they're saying to get this brain heart rhythm pleasure center loop going, you need a meditation practice for about 5 years consistently, or 4 to 7 hertz mechanical or acoustical vibrations. Which also means they've been weaponizing the vibrations and the mechanics and the acoustics against us, which makes me think of LED lights and the rapid flicker rate that they have, and the way that it's basically putting us into like a low-key panic attack or like anxiety attack constantly with the rapid flicker rate versus what our eyes and our minds can perceive. We can't perceive that rapid flicker rate. We just see it as a really bright light. But our brain, on the other hand, is constantly being bombarded with, oh my God, it's bright. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, it's flickering faster than I can perceive. Oh God, something's wrong. Yeah, so if they know the 4 to 7 hertz helps us complete that pleasure cycle, that like, I think it's like 120 hertz or something like that LED has the rapid flicker rate at. That's disrupting the pleasure loop. It's literally throwing us out of our natural, normal alignment with our Kundalini chakras, our energy system, and the hemispheres of our fucking brain, dude. Holy shit, I really wish there were more people watching this and like hearing this with me right now, because this is like life-changing information. I feel like I wish I could make like an hour-long YouTube. Honestly, I might do another video for YouTube where I'm just reading through this, because this is insane. This is actually insane, you guys. Like, this is proving to me that they are weaponizing our energy, our frequency, and harvesting it to the highest degree, in every single facet that they can across all of society. Bentov cites as an example repeated riding in a car whose suspension and seat combination produce that range of vibrations. Interesting example. Or being exposed for long periods of time to those frequencies caused, for instance, by an air conditioning duct. So they're talking about the pleasure center loop can be completed by air conditioning or cars, which means it can also be disrupted and broken by things like that. It can be severed by stuff like that, and they know that. Oh my god. He also notes that the cumulative effect of these vibrations may be able to trigger a spontaneously physio-kundalini sequence in susceptible people who have a particularly sensitive nervous system. So it can trigger a kundalini awakening if you're energetically receptive to it. That's why some people just randomly have kundalini awakenings, because it seems like pretty much anything can trigger that. If you get the right frequency going, you get in touch with the right energy, and suddenly, boom, that pleasure center loop activates. Like when you have your frontal lobe just come online when you hit your 20s. As this, but like next level, energetic, spiritual everything. Wow. 4. Biofeedback. The third consciousness altering methodology, which will be briefly described, is biofeedback. This makes me think Sabrina Wallace and all the shit she talks about, which is absolutely insane. Biofeedback is somewhat unique in that it actually employs the self-cognitive powers of the left hemisphere to gain access to such areas of the right brain as the lower cerebral, motor, and sensory cortices and associated pain or pleasure centers. Interesting. So they can definitely use that, again, as another way of getting to us mentally, emotionally, and physically, and changing how we perceive things, how we interact with the world, how we're able to just exist. Instead of suppressing the left hemisphere, as is done in hypnosis, or largely bypassing and ignoring it, as is done in transcendental meditation, biofeedback teaches the left hemisphere first to visualize the desired result, and then to recognize the feelings associated with the experience of successful right hemisphere access to the specific lower cerebral cortex, pain or pleasure, or other areas in the manner needed to produce the desired result. I think I said that backwards. So what I'm hearing is this is basically sounding like manifestation. Like they're explaining manifestation through biofeedback and the science behind all of it and why it works and how it works. It seems like the ways that they're messing with our brain, they're either straight up bypassing the left side of our brain to just lie to the right side, or they're triggering the left side to make us manifest, basically. That's kind of crazy. Special self-monitoring devices, I don't like that wording, such as the digital thermometer, are used to inform the left brain when it succeeds in keying the right hemisphere into accessing the appropriate area. Once this is done, the left brain can then repeatedly instruct the right brain to reestablish the pathways involved so as to produce the same external objective measures of success. So yeah, it's like that fake it till you make it, essentially, right? In this way, the pathways are strengthened and emphasized to such an extent that left brain consciousness is enabled to access appropriate areas in the right brain using a conscious demand mode. For example, if the subject wishes to increase the circulation in the left leg in order to speed up healing, he may concentrate with his left brain on achieving that result while carefully monitoring a digital thermometer connected to the left leg. While the concentrated effort begins to achieve success, The digital thermometer will register an increase in the temperature of the left leg. So they're talking about thinking and being able to physically change how your body works, raising your temperature, because I know you can also raise or calm your heartbeat by thinking. They're talking about being able to think your way into faster healing. Did y'all catch that? Did y'all catch that? Thinking your way into healing your fucking body? Crazy, crazy. When the concentrate... Oh, wait, no. At that point, the subject can mentally, left brain, associate the sensations experienced with the result achieved and can begin to emphasize by memory recall the same process to cause its strengthening by affirmation and repetition. Literally just positively gaslighting yourself. It's all... So they're saying that affirmations and manifestation is real, that it works, that there's science behind it, that they know that, they've been studying that, and they can weaponize it and turn it on its head and use it against us. In this way, pain can be blocked, healing can be enhanced, malignant tumors can apparently be suppressed and ultimately destroyed. Hello? Are they telling us we can cure cancer from ourselves? Is what I'm hearing? I told y'all. I made a TikTok about that at some point. I told y'all. I genuinely think we are capable of healing every single ailment in our physical body. It is all a sign of dis-ease and something wrong energetically in our field. And this is saying we can think our way out of it. And that they're just disrupting our energetic field and our frequency to cause the dis-ease and the dysregulation in our energetic bodies. The body's pleasure centers can be stimulated, and a variety of specific physiological results may be achieved. So they're saying we can pretty much do literally anything through thought. And like hypnosis and meditation and focusing your fucking energy and your attention and manifesting that shit and affirmations, which also means they've weaponized that against us. Let's keep it going. In addition, biofeedback may be used to greatly accelerate achievement of deep meditative states, particularly for beginners who have no experience in meditative techniques and whose progress in that methodology is enhanced through effective visualization and external objective affirmation. Display of the subject's brainwave pattern on a cathode ray tube has proven to be a laboratory-validated means by which subjects may quickly learn to place themselves in profoundly relaxed states characterized by the sort of quietude and singularity of mental focus associated with advanced meditation. 5. Gateway and hemisync. Now that we have briefly profiled the basic mechanics of the principal techniques for altering or expanding consciousness, which share some of the objectives and or methods employed in the gateway experience, we may proceed to focus on what technique actually involves. Fundamentally, the gateway experience is a training system designed to bring enhanced strength, focus, and coherence to the amplitude and frequency of brainwave output between the left and right hemispheres, so as to alter consciousness, moving it outside the physical sphere so as to ultimately escape even the restrictions of time and space. Hello? To ultimately escape even the restrictions of time and space. This is the stuff our government and our military is studying. Escaping the bounds of fucking time and space, friends. That was a weird sound. The participant then gains access to the various levels of intuitive knowledge which the universe offers. Again, they're going back to the intuition and how we all can tap into this collective energy. Like, we're a collective hive mind, like I keep talking about us being. I think we're like the Dwemer. We're just a fucking hive mind. We are a collective hive mind, all tapped into the same fucking frequency at the core. And they are doing everything they can to distort us from that because they know. That's why they took our fucking bells. That's why everything is phones and screens and algorithmic interference now and energy harvesting. Ooh, little throat chakra acting up there. Bum, 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 bum. Where was I at? I keep losing myself on this page. There's so many words. They just have so much. It's just like packed on fucking knowledge. We're on page 6. Let's see. What differentiates the gateway experience from forms of meditation is its use of the hemi-sync technique, which is defined in a monograph by Monroe Institute trainer Melissa Jaeger as a state of consciousness defined when the EEG patterns of both hemispheres are simultaneously equal in amplitude and frequency. That has something to do with free energy. I just got that download. It's connected to the Tesla coils and everything. All of it, the amplitude and the frequency, and it's connected to the cymatics of the old world buildings too. I'm going to be doing that on a different live with you guys after this if I have energy for it. It's all connected. Although hemisync seems to be rather rare and of only short duration in ordinary human consciousness, Melissa Jaeger states that audio techniques developed by Bob Monroe can induce and sustain hemisync with the Institute's basic Focus 3 tapes. She also notes studies conducted by Elmer and Alice Green at the Menninger Foundation have shown that a subject with 20 years of training in Zen meditation, so like a monk or something, could consistently establish hemisync at will, sustaining it for over 15 minutes. So yeah, your meditations and your affirmations is doing real shit. They just want you to think it's woo-woo and crazy, but this shit works. That's why you can see people move things with just the energy pulses of their hands or snap and blow out candle flames. They're saying that shit's real. Like, real. They just want us to think it's crazy. They want us to think the clairaudience, the claircognizance, the clairvoyance, the energy seeing, the auras, the entities that people are allowed to perceive, they want us to think we're crazy. But then they're studying it and writing declassified documents on it. Riddle me that, Batman. Dr. Stuart Twemlow, a psychiatrist and a research associate of the Monroe Institute, reports that in our studies of the effect of the Monroe tape system on brainwaves, we have found that the tapes encourage the focusing of brain energy. It can be measured as with a light bulb in watts. Interesting. We measure brain energy in watts and frequency in hertz into a narrower and narrower frequency band. This focusing of energy is not unlike the yoga concept of one-pointedness, which we may translate in Western terms as a single-mindedness, hive mind, collective I keep telling y'all about. We're all tapped into it. Dr. Twemlow goes on to observe that as the individual gets into the tapes beyond Focus 3, there is a gradual increase in brainwave size, which is a measure of brain energy or power. Interesting. So the tapes are literally able to make you... Would it be increasing the amplitude? Making larger brain waves? That also makes me think that's making that mind-heart pleasure loop that we were talking about at the beginning. It makes me think that increasing those brain waves with the increasing focus in the tapes also would be increasing that pleasure loop as well, which also means they can weaponize it to increase the fear and anxiety and like mortal primal panic loops with the algorithmic scalar interference as well. All of it is connected, my friends. 6, lamp versus laser. Interesting. This is also making me think of that laser experiment where people put the laser on the wall and you can see code behind the code, like real life Matrix. I want to test that myself. I need to get a laser. Melissa Jaeger uses a metaphor to help clarify the process involved in the use of hemisync in the gateway experience. She points out that the human mind in its natural state may be likened to an ordinary lamp. Don't stare at the lamp too long or you'll wake up. Which expends energy in the form of both heat and light, but in a chaotic, incoherent way which diffuses its energy over a wide area of rather limited depth. On the other hand, the human mind, under the discipline of hemisync, acts after the fashion of a laser beam, which produces a disciplined stream of light. Interesting. This is really making me think on that scalar interference document that I read a while ago that talked about basically they can produce and harvest pretty much free energy from anything, anywhere, at any time. And they're telling us that if you meditate and you focus your energy and you're manifesting and doing affirmations and trying to use your brain and activate those brain waves, you're literally a laser beam of light and energy and focus. And based on what I know from the scalar interference paperwork that I read, they see all of that like a graph. Whenever there's energy peaks and spikes, they see that. It registers like red hot on a heat map. And I think it's also connected to like the flock surveillance cams and the ring cameras and AI surveillance and just the general surveillance state that we live under, where there's constantly planes and drones flying around. It's all connected to this. They can see. So when we're connected to this energy and we have that pleasure loop going and that chakra activation and that kundalini awakening, we are a laser beam of light focus, and they see that. It's like, imagine you're in like a closet with the door shut and there's no lights on, and then you turn on the brightest little light you've ever freaking seen and you're just shining it straight up. That's what you look like to them. That's what they're telling us with this. When you focus your brain and your energy, your pineal gland, I imagine, is what it comes out of, and it's probably just like that's crazy. That's crazy. They're telling us that we literally produce energy like a fucking laser beam, dude. I think this is... I got another download. This is connected to the pyramids and the cymatics of the old world buildings and how it looks like everything was built with energy and frequency. It's connected to those little pine cone things, or the purses that we all held. That's in all of our hieroglyphics that don't make sense. It's connected to that shit in our pineal gland. Maybe that was a tool we used somehow to help vibrate things and do stuff. We were producing the energy to do this shit. That's what I'm getting from this. The stream of energy is projected with total coherence of both frequency and amplitude, such that the surface area of a laser beam contains billions of times the concentrated energy found in a similar surface area on the sun? Yo! Did y'all lock into everything that I was just ranting about 5 seconds ago, and how we are a fucking laser beam of energy when we concentrate our shit? We're literally billions of times more concentrated than the fucking sun with this shit. 1 billion times more concentrated than the sun. Our energy coming out of our fucking brains. They just told us in this. 1 billion times more powerful than the sun. What? They've been harvesting our energy. We are the most useful, valuable resource on this fucking planet. 1 billion times more powerful than the fucking sun. This is the biggest thing I've read in this entire document so far. Oh my god, y'all. Gateway assumes that once the frequency and amplitude of the human brain are rendered coherent, it is possible to begin accelerating both, so that the human mind is soon resonating at ever higher vibrational levels. So once you start that pleasure loop, you're able to just keep it going and increase it and raise your own vibration. Holy shit. Okay, wait. I have to write that down. That's crazy. I'm still freaking out about the sun thing, you guys. I'm freaking out about that. That's crazy. Okay, the mind, so that means if they know that they can use the frequency to have us in this constantly increasing mind-heart pleasure loop, that's why they took away our bells. That's why they disconnected us from source energy and frequency, all of the sound healing. Which also means they've been weaponizing that against us and using that to keep us in that low vibrational energy loop where we're just constantly doom scrolling and eating up all of this negativity and shit like that through these algorithms so that they can harvest that beam of energy 1 billion times more concentrated than the sun that they just told us about. where did I end up? The mind can then bring itself into synchronization with more sophisticated and rarefied energy levels in the universe. So I'm thinking like 6D communication there. The mind, when operating at these increasingly rarefied levels, is assumed to be capable of processing the information thus received through the same fundamental matrix by which it makes sense of ordinary physical sensory input to achieve meaning in a cognitive context. Interesting. Such meaning is usually perceived visually in the form of symbols, but may also be perceived as astonishing flashes of holistic intuition, or even in the form of scenarios involving both visual and oral perception, like your aura. Like you can feel the energy is essentially what I think that means. We're gonna Google that really quick, because I'm pretty sure that's what oral perception means. But I want to look that up just to see. No, not auditory perception. Oral perception. It is the brain's ability to receive, interpret, and assign meaning to sound waves detected by the ears. Interesting. So it's more just about frequency and stuff like that. So what I'm hearing is when we're in this high vibrational state, we're able to connect to this interconnected energy matrix of oneness and get intuitive downloads and see things, hear things, have those, what is it, intercognition, whatever I'm trying to think of, where you're having that clairaudience, claircognizance, clairvoyance, clairsalience, whatever all of the different clairs are. So it's saying that when you're tapped into that energy, you are receiving something back, is what they're saying. They're saying it's not woo-woo. They're the same way you're creating that pleasure loop between the mind and the heart, and that feedback loop, you're getting that on a cosmic level when you tap into this. When you're beaming out that energy 1 billion times more powerful than the sun, it's beaming information and downloads straight back at your fucking face. That's crazy. The mechanics by which the mind exercises the consciousness function will be addressed in more detail later in this paper. 7. Frequency following response. To achieve synchronization of brain hemispheres, the hemisync technique takes advantage of a phenomenon known as the frequency following response, FFR, which means that if a subject hears a sound produced at a frequency which emulates one of those associated with the operation of the human brain, the brain will try to mimic the same frequency pattern by adjusting its brainwave output. Just got another download there. It is 1000% connected to our music, because that is the biggest intake of frequencies and our movies and TV shows, and how they cue us with like scary sound effects and stuff like that, and fear harvesting and all of those like tension moments and like the climaxes and stuff like that. They're disrupting that loop, and they're putting us into a lower vibrational like fear loop with that instead. Because even, I just talked about this yesterday too, was it Ice Cube or 50 Cent talked about how the government started rap among like black people and black communities to cultivate that like hood rat mentality of like, you are lesser than, this gives society a reason to look upon you or look down upon you and try to justify slavery and calling you morally impure or whatever, and chastising you for drinking and smoking and doing drugs and having sex, because that's all we talk about in these songs that we produce with this heavy beat with all of these destabilizing frequencies in the background, and this heavy bass that really gets into your aura and your energy and your frequency. Therefore, if the subject is in a fully awake state but hears sound frequencies which approximates brainwave output at the theta level, the subject's brain will endeavor to alter its brainwave pattern from a normal beta to the theta level. So they can literally try to change our brainwave states at will with sound in any way, shape, or form. Which really makes me think of that mosquito sound that we played as kids too. The one that our parents couldn't hear, but we could hear. I feel like that's connected somehow, especially if you were a gate kid. There's no such thing as coincidence. It usually just takes a couple years or a couple decades for people to connect the dots. But my pattern recognition is crazy and I haven't been wrong yet. So I keep stumbling upon little nuggets of information and they keep connecting in really freaking weird ways. No, did I actually get it? Oh no, I thought I had a little comment, but it's just the AI summary again. I don't know why it keeps giving me that. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't like the AI summary. Since the theta level is associated with sleep, the subject concerned may progress from a fully awake to a sleep state, provided that he does not consciously resist, as the brain strives to entrain its wave frequency output with the one which the person hears. That's also making me think back to doom scrolling and how it sucks out all your energy and makes you feel real tired and real unmotivated and real unproductive afterwards. I'm telling y'all, there's no such thing as coincidence anymore. None of it. They study some weird shit. Since these brainwave frequencies are outside the spectrum of sounds which can be heard in pure form by the human ear, I'm going to read that again for y'all. Since these brainwave frequencies are outside the spectrum of sounds which can be heard in pure form by the human ear, they're fucking playing this shit constantly. Like TAPS plays on military bases. I think they're playing this frequency shit out of the 5G towers that are everywhere. Because our phone connection didn't get any better when they put the 5G towers up. And they look a hell of a lot like the Gwen towers from our military documents. And reading this now, they 1000% can blast our shit with frequency. Especially if we're beaming out that billion times stronger than the sun energy. We beam that out, all they do is shoot us with some frequency that we can't hear, and suddenly, oh, we're no longer meditating and stuck in that focused state. We're no longer in the flow. We're knocked out. Now we're doom scrolling. Now we're sad. Now we're distracted. Now we're depressed. Now we're unmotivated. Now we're disconnected. Now something happens and we have something sometimes maybe even manifest into our physical life, like we have a fight with someone or we break up with someone, because it's all interconnected. It's all energy. It's all frequency. Holy shit. Holy shit. They weaponize this against us 1,000,000%. If they were talking about this in the 80s, my friends, because they've been talking about weirder shit since the 20s, the 1920s. So they've had over 100 years studying shit like this against us, experimenting on it. Trillions of dollars, if not more, in black budgets and Pentagon budgets that have never been fully accounted for have gone into studying phenomena like this. And we don't even know 1% of it because, like I said, this took 20 years for this to get declassified. So imagine what they're doing now with AI at the levels we're allowed to know about it at, and technology at the levels we're allowed to know about it at, and drones and all of the weird military capabilities and skunk works and shit like that we're allowed to know. Imagine what's happening where we're not allowed to know about it, down in their deep underground military bases and things like that. Since these brainwave... Oh, wait, no, I just read that. Hemisync must produce them based on another phenomena known as the brain's capacity for deducing beat frequencies. So again, tying back to that psyop with rap, I think. If the human brain is exposed to one frequency in the left ear, which is 10 hertz below another audible frequency played in the right ear, rather than hearing either of the two audible frequencies, the brain chooses to hear the difference between them, the beat frequency, thus availing itself of the FFR phenomena and using the technique of beat frequencies. The gate system uses hemisync and other audio techniques, employing the FFR phenomena to introduce a variety of frequencies which are played at a virtually subliminal, marginally audible level. So yeah, they're 1000%. If it's not coming from these towers and shit that the frequency is disturbing us, it's 1000% in our music, in the music itself, along with that just being a psyop. Like, they're fucking with our energy. They're fucking with every single part of how we are existing as humans on an energetic, physical, mental, emotional level. All of it is what they just admitted to, and we're only on fucking page 7 of 29 still, friends. Holy crap. The objective is to relax the left hemisphere of the brain, place the physical body in a virtual sleep state, weird wording, everything's a hologram simulation, and bring the left and right hemispheres into coherence under conditions designed to promote the production of ever higher amplitude and frequency of brainwave output. Audible and perhaps subliminal suggestions by Bob Monroe, oh my god, accompany the various brainwave frequencies, which are sometimes rolled in together with other sounds, such as sea surf, to mask the sound frequencies where desirable. Wait a second. Have our therapists been psyoping us with brainwave disruptors when they play the sea sounds? Do y'all think that's connected? Because I feel like it is. I feel like it is, especially after, wasn't it like years ago, BetterHelp was connected to all of this? I don't remember the specifics, but BetterHelp was like basically proven to be a psyop connected to the military and the government, where they were like fucking with our brains and the way we get therapized. So like, no such thing as coincidence, I'm just saying. In this way, Gateway endeavors to provide the subject with the tools by which he may alter his consciousness based on his own volition over time through repetitive use of the tapes so as to access the intuitive means. They love bringing up our intuition and telling us it doesn't exist afterwards. New categories of information not available to ordinary consciousness. I'm going to read that again because I spoke in the middle of that. Over time, through the repetitive use of the tapes, so as to access via intuitive means new categories of information not available to ordinary consciousness. So we can meditate and use this process to sync up our energy and our brain spheres and literally intuitively get those downloads from that energy beam of information we could not obtain otherwise. There is literally an entire field of information outside of the ordinary consciousness, is what this is telling us. New categories of information not available to ordinary consciousness. Y'all, this is the esoteric shit. This is the like, what's the word, like Dead Sea Scrolls type shit. Like I'm just like, this is all of the downloads, the Akashic records. This is those spiritual downloads, Kundalini awakening, chakra activations. You're tapping into the field. You're tapping into source energy, which I think is plasma energy and just the divine feminine. It's this. 8. Role of resonance. However, brain coherence through entrainment to beat frequencies introduced via stereo headphones. That makes me think of when we were gate kids and we had those big ass bulky gray headphones. Oh, they were trying to induce something weird. The more I think on the gateway process, I think we're all sleeper cells in some way. They were doing something with the headphones. Is only part of the reason why the gateway system works. Write that down as a little... I'm trying to like keep a little bit of notes to make some TikToks later, but there's so much information, y'all. I'm gonna have to make this a full like hour or two YouTube video or however long this ends up being, where I'm just like fucking yapping, because this is so fascinating to me. I really hope y'all are getting education and entertainment from this, because like my mind is blown. Learning that, thank you for all the likes, learning that we can create energy 1 billion times more concentrated than the fucking sun. I still can't get over that, like genuinely. In this way, Gateway endeavors to provide the subject with the tools by which he may alter his consciousness based on his own volition. Oh, I already said that. 8, role of resonance. Oh wait, I already said this too. Is only part of the reason why the gateway system works. It is also designed to achieve the physical quietude characteristic of deep transcendental meditative states, which brings about a complete alteration of fundamental resonance pattern associated with the sound frequencies produced by the human body. Complete alteration of the frequencies produced by the human body. So that energy beam that we're putting out, we can change. We can change the frequencies. We can change the amplitude. We can change all of it. I'm assuming we can literally change our internal and our external environment at will and heal ourselves, I believe. I believe we can do some really crazy shit. Yoga, Zen, or transcendental meditation, if practiced long enough, will produce a change in the sound frequency with which the human heart resonates throughout the entire body. Yoga, Zen, or transcendental meditation, if practiced long enough, will produce a change in the sound frequency with which the human heart resonates throughout the entire body. Friends, that pleasure loop, the mind-heart pleasure loop, not only are you beaming out energy 1 billion times more powerful than the sun, you are literally changing the frequency of your own body that your own pleasure loop is feeding back to you. According to Bentov, this change in resonance results from elimination of what the medical profession calls the bifurcation echo, so that the sound of the heartbeat can move synchronously up and down the circulatory system in harmonious resonance approximately 7 times a second. 7 keeps coming up too. Bentov describes the role played by the bifurcation echo as follows. When the left ventricle of the heart ejects blood, the aorta, being elastic, balloons out just beyond the valve and causes a pressure pulse to travel down along the aorta. When the pressure pulse reaches the bifurcation in the lower abdomen, which is where the aorta forks into to go into the legs, part of the pressure pulse rebounds and starts traveling up the aorta. If in the meantime the heart ejects more blood and a new pressure pulse is traveling down, these 2 pressure points will eventually collide somewhere along the body, or along the aorta, and produce an interference pattern. You know what this is immediately making me think of? CERN. And how they're trying to, is it create the God particle that they're trying to do by smashing atoms together? It's this on a macro scale. The macro mirrors the micro, and the micro mirrors the macro every single time, and I cannot stress that enough. It's all connected. So we're literally able to constantly change our own frequency while being, influenced by outside interference constantly. By placing the body in a sleep-like state, the gateway tapes achieve the same goal as meditation in that it places the body in such a profoundly relaxed state that the bifurcation echo slowly fades away as the heart lessens the force and frequency with which it pushes blood into the aorta. The result is that a regular rhythmic sine wave pattern of sound which echoes throughout the body and rises up into the head in sustained resonance. So it's activating that mind, heart, body pleasure loop. The amplitude of this sine wave pattern when measured with a sensitive seismograph type instrument is about 3 times the average of the sound volume produced by the heart when it is operating normally. Okay. So not only are you producing, when you're meditating, that energy beam that is over 1 billion times more powerful than the sun, your heart is also making a sound 3 times louder whenever it's creating that loop feedback in your body. So you're putting out all kinds of insane, crazy, very, 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 very strong energetic signals into the entire world around you. That's why people say shifting your own state and your own energetic sense of being is able to have like an immediate impact on other people. Like when you walk into a room, you notice the energy fucking changes because they're literally able to perceive this insane energy that you're putting out between your laser beam focus and that heart rhythmic energy output that you're outputting. You are literally like walking into a room either going like, hi, nice to meet you, or you're like, oh my god, hi, I'm here and I love you so much, and you just feel like a warm hug energetically and like snickerdoodle cookies to people. That's that. They can feel your energy pulse differently. They can feel the way that you're interacting with your own mind and body and your brain waves. That's crazy, y'all. 9. Brain stimulation. Bentov's biomedical model shows that this resonance is of considerable importance since it is directly transmitted to and impacts upon the brain. The resulting vibration is received and transmitted into the brain itself via the fluid-filled third and left ventricles located above the brainstem. Oh, in the brain. An electromagnetic impulse is then generated, which simulates the brain to raise the amplitude and frequency of brainwave output, just as Dr. Twemlow observed in his research on the effects of the hemisync tapes. Some of this I read and I'm like, I don't really understand what that's trying to say, but it feels really important. Like, I get like 1% of that. Like, it's just filled with a lot of words that don't mean much to me when they're put together, and I think that's kind of the point. I've noticed they do the same thing in legal documents with all of the legalese and the legal wording. It's so that you don't fully understand the concept, so you don't fully understand your rights, so you don't fully understand what's being done to you or what's happening or what you can do. Just like with this, they don't want you to fully understand what they understand. They don't want you to fully get it unless you're part of this special training that they're doing. They don't want you to understand that you can manifest things in your reality at will, that you can heal your body, that you're putting all of this out, that you're doing all of this. They don't want you to put the keys together and understand you have access to these intuitive downloads. Also, the brain is contained in a tight membrane called the dura, which is in turn cushioned by a thin layer of fluid located between it and the skull. That's crazy because that's almost exactly how they describe our literal universe. The universal hologram, they call it. That's literally how they describe it later in this exact document, is being basically like a walnut where it's got two halves and it's surrounded by this cosmic fluid of, I think they called it dark matter. I don't remember. We'll get into it because we'll get there. But I called it a cosmic cum shot yesterday because it's basically what it is. It talks about how the energy is swimming around us and we are an egg. It talks about the cosmic or the cosmic egg. It's all feminine energy. All of this shit is plasma feminine energy. And it mirrors our brain because we're in a cosmic brain, I think. I have a theory we are in a being much larger than us. The way that we had giants and stuff in the Bibles and we can see their remnants and stuff all over this landscape if you know where to look. And you can see the things that they literally built and left behind that we would have no reason to have built in that size or shape or how to build in that way at that time. It's also connected, my friends. We live in a brain, but it's really a simulation. It really makes me think we're just like some brain cells in a petri dish playing Doom somewhere. You know, like on the cosmic hologram of things, we're just on a server somewhere, some server farm in some kid's closet shelf. As the coherent resonance produced by the human heart in a state of profound relaxation, so that 3 times louder, reaches the fluid layer surrounding the brain, it sets up a rhythmic pattern in which the brain moves up and down approximately 0.005 to 0.01 millimeters in a continuous pattern? What? So not only does meditation and all of this transcendentalness and kundalini energy connection beam out that energy a billion times more powerful than the sun, it's making a mind-heart connection that's beating 3 times louder than normal. It's also making your brain twerk in your skull. It's making your brain bob up and down on a beat. And we're generating some sort of piezoelectricity or something, and it's connected to the bones in our teeth. Oh, I just got that download. Oh, that's so connected to everything, friends. Because all of this old world architecture also seems like it's connected to piezoelectricity and free energy. Oh, our brain is connecting. It's the lever, and it's making the energy. It's like a piston. We're like a car. We're like a fleshy car. Our brain is bouncing in a pattern. Okay. That's crazy. That's crazy. The self-reinforcing center or character of resonant behavior accounts for the body's ability to sustain this movement despite the minimal level of energy involved. That really makes me think of bells and how once you get them swinging, the pendulum just keeps going and it's like a perpetual motion machine. It also makes me think of the Oxford bell, which is, I believe, over 200 years old. They still have no idea how it operates, and it's never stopped ringing. It is ringing itself. It is some sort of perpetual motion machine that we don't know how was made. And our brain does the same thing, the same perpetual energy motion. Wow. Okay. In this way, the entire body, based on its own micromotion, functions as a tuned vibrational system, which transfers energy in a range of between 6.8 and 7.5 hertz into the Earth's ionospheric cavity, which itself resonates at about 7 to 7.5 hertz. Where's the ionospheric cavity? Guys, I just hit a huge bingo for my own research. This is the frequency I've been tracking in the sky. The Earth ionosphere cavity is a natural spherical waveguide formed by the conductive ionosphere, approximately 70 to 110 kilometers altitude, and the Earth's surface. This cavity traps electromagnetic waves, particularly lightning-induced Schumann resonances, in the extremely low frequency range of less than 100 hertz. It acts as a global resonance system used to monitor worldwide lightning activity and ionospheric changes. So we are literally affecting the Schumann resonance. We are causing the spikes in the Schumann resonance. It's interacting with us, but we are influencing it. This is connected to all of the weird lines I've been seeing in the skies lately. I'm not talking about the things they try to call contrails that remind me of Operation Lack and Operation Sea Spray, where they're just spraying all kinds of weird heavy metals and whatever they want over us to poison us and keep us sick. But it's like, if you go out and look in the clouds, you'll literally see any given day pretty much sections of the sky where it's the same little band. It looks like piano keys in the clouds. It looks like someone just took their fingers and like raked it across perfectly symmetrical. And you'll see sometimes they're coming at different angles too. And I've gotten pictures where it's almost like a cross of them and they're intersecting. It's this. They're disrupting the frequency that we're putting out into the ionosphere. They're trying to disrupt the way we're connecting to the Schumann resonance and the way the Schumann resonance is connecting with us, because it's all extremely low frequency. Every single part of this is extremely low frequency that we are meant to be in with ourselves, our bodies, the Earth, the ionosphere, the Schumann resonance, and then the LED lights and the rapid flicker rate and all of the electrical wires and electricity and screens that we're in front of all the time are putting off that rapid flicker rate that's putting us into basically like REM overdrive constantly. That's what this is. They know it. They know everything that our bodies do, you guys. This is actually insane. I have to write this one down too. I don't even know how to like sum these up for later. This is such a complicated concept that I feel like unless you're watching this entire live and listening to all of this, there's so much that's happening. I'm just going to put Schumann resonance. Bentov states this is occurring at a very long wavelength of about 40,000 kilometers, or just about the perimeter of the planet. Or just about the perimeter of the planet. In other words, the signal from the movement of our bodies will travel around the world, in about 1/7 of a second through the electrostatic field in which we are embedded. My friends, I'm going to read that again to y'all, because what the fuck? The signal from the movement of our bodies will travel around the world in about 1/7 of a second through the electrostatic field in which we are all embedded. One-seventh of a second, and our energetic field is covering this entire planet, my friends. The hive mind I keep telling y'all about. The global connected consciousness. They're telling us about it over and over and over and over again. Such a long wavelength knows no obstacles, and its strength does not attenuate much over large distances, which I think means to like wean down so it doesn't get weaker. Free energy. Naturally, it will go through just about anything: metal, concrete, water, and the fields making up our bodies. So that's why we feel other people's emotions, why we have that mama bear syndrome, where you know someone's hurt before you should know that they're hurt when you're not in contact with them if they're on the other side of the world or whatever. It's because their energy system is literally interacting with everything on Earth in 1/7 of a second. In 1/7 of a second. It is the ideal medium for conveying a telepathic signal. Okay, so not only can they hypnotize us and do all of this weird stuff, we're connected to a cosmic consciousness and we have telepathy. We have instant communication with everything on this known energetic grid. Everything. Every single thing. Consequently, the gateway process is designed to rather rapidly induce a state of profound calm within the nervous system and to significantly lower blood pressure to cause the circulatory system, skeleton, and all other physical organ systems to begin vibrating coherently at approximately 7 to 7.5 cycles per second. So 7 keeps coming up a lot. 7 is a very important number for hertz, for cycles, for seconds of things. 7 keeps coming up a lot. So that's crazy. With frequency, they can calm our nervous system, lower our blood pressure, cause our circulatory system, our skeleton, and all other physical organ systems to vibrate coherently. My friends, our frequency heals us. That's why they took our bells. I keep saying it, and I mean it every time I fucking say it. The resulting resonance sets up a regular, repetitive sound wave which propagates in consonance with the electrostatic field of the Earth. So yeah, we're supposed to be in sync with Mother Nature and the Schumann resonance. But they're disrupting our frequency and all of the cycles and all of the coherence. They're manipulating and distorting it and taking it outside of the self. 10. Energy entrainment. As the body is turned into a coherent oscillator vibrating in harmony with the surrounding electrostatic medium, The specific exercises included in the gateway tapes enjoin the participant to build up the energy field surrounding his body, presumably by using energy from the Earth's field, which the body is now in training because of its ability to resonate with it. So they're talking about when you get in this meditative state, you're literally able to build up your own energy and take from Mother Nature and the Schumann resonance and the natural pulsating energy of the entire fucking Earth herself in that 1/7 of a second timeline. Holy fucking shitballs. Holy fucking shitballs, friends. Oh my god. This puts the body's energy field into homogeneity. I think I said that word wrong, but I'm not even gonna care. With its surrounding environment and promotes movement of the seat of consciousness into the surrounding environment, partly in response to the fact that the two electromagnetic medians are now a single energy continuum. So it's talking about expanding your consciousness into that cosmic egg brain of the universal hologram that they say our known universe is. Because it's all the same energy. Because it's all the same connected medium. It's all the same interconnected global collective consciousness. Thus, the same process which moves the brain into focused coherence at steadily higher levels of frequency and amplitude, so as to entrain an analogous, I don't know, that's another one I'm not going to care about, frequencies in the universe for data collection, also promotes enhancement of bodily energy levels to a point adequate to permit the subject to experience an out-of-body movement when he is ready to do so. So it's talking about raising your own energy levels so that you can project your consciousness and do this out-of-body experiences. Wow. More will be said about this topic later. In addition, by resonating with the Earth's electromagnetic sphere, the human body creates a surprisingly powerful carrier wave to assist the mind in communication activity with other human minds similarly tuned. So by connecting with the cosmic intelligence of this, it's basically talking about hive mind communication, where we're all able to talk together and communicate telepathically. That's crazy. 11. Consciousness and energy. Before our explanation can proceed any further, it is essential to define the mechanism by which the human mind exercises the function known as consciousness, and to describe the way in which that consciousness operates to deduce meaning from the stimuli which it receives. To do this, we will first consider the fundamental character of the material world in which we have our physical existence in order to accurately perceive the raw stuff with which our consciousness must work. The first point which needs to be made is that the two terms, matter and energy, tend to be misleading if taken to indicate two distinctly different states of existence in the physical world that we know it. Indeed, if the term matter is taken to mean solid substance as opposed to energy, which is understood to mean a force of some sort, then the use of the former is entirely misleading. Science now knows that both the electrons which spin in the energy field located around the nucleus of the atom and the nucleus itself are made up of nothing more than oscillating energy grids. Wait a second. Did y'all hear that? That's actually crazy. Both the electrons which spin in the energy field located around the nucleus of the atom and the nucleus itself are made up of nothing more than oscillating energy grids. So it's saying matter isn't fucking real. It's all just energy. It's all just electricity and energy grids and resonance and frequency and harmony and vibration. Solid matter in the strict construction of the term simply does not exist. Solid matter in the strict construction of the term simply does not exist. Hello, what? That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. Rather, atomic structure is composed of oscillating energy grids surrounded by other oscillating energy grids, which orbit at extraordinarily high speeds. Again, making me think of CERN and all of the weird-ass projects that they've been doing. Oh, I smudged my glasses. Give me a second. Let me clean these bitches. I can't. I cannot stand that. What do y'all think of all this? Because this is actually blowing my mind. Like, reading all of this and knowing that the government has known this for this long, with all of the other weird things they've been studying, like, literally there is no such thing as coincidence. All of this is so interconnected, and it's all energy and frequency based, and they've been purposely distorting it. Like, this is crazy. In his book, Stalking the Wild Pendulum, Itzhak Bentov, they spelled his name the wrong way again. They keep giving him different names, gives the following figures. The energy grid which composes the nucleus of the atom vibrates at approximately 10 to the 22nd power hertz, which means 10 followed by 22 zeros. So all of what we perceive as matter is just extremely high vibrational energy. It's all just energy. And the parts of it we say are the most real and solid are just the fastest parts. What? This isn't real, this is just fast energy. This isn't real, this is just fast, meaty energy. Wow. At 70 degrees Fahrenheit, an atom oscillates at the rate of 10 to the 15th power hertz. An entire molecule, composed of a number of atoms bound together in a single energy field, vibrates in the range of 10 to the 9th hertz. So an atom is faster than a molecule. A live human cell vibrates at approximately 10 to the 3rd hertz. So the atoms are the fastest, molecules are slower than them but still extremely fast, and then human cells are also extremely fast, but they're the slowest of all of this. So we are the most disconnected from the entire energetic grid is what I'm getting, and we have to speed our vibrations up through those pleasure loops through the mind and body and the resonance and the coherence of all of it. The point to be made is that the entire human being, brain, consciousness, and all is like the universe which surrounds him, nothing more or less than an extraordinarily complex system of energy fields. Nothing more, nothing less than an extraordinarily complex system of energy fields. That's all we are. We're just meaty energy fields. The so-called states of matter are actually variances in the state of energy, and human consciousness is a function of the interaction of energy in two opposite states, motion versus rest, in a manner described in the following paragraphs. Human consciousness is a function of the interaction of energy in two opposite states, motion versus rest. We are just energetic feedback loops in different states of being. 12. Holograms. This is fun. Energy creates, stores, and retrieves meaning in the universe by projecting or expanding at certain frequencies in a three-dimensional mode that creates a living pattern called a hologram, which is making me think of AI and the cloud, storing data in the cloud. The universe is just a massive cloud, a massive data center. The concept of the hologram can be most easily understood by using an example cited by Bentov in which he asks the reader to visualize a bowl full of water into which 3 pebbles are dropped. As the ripples create the simultaneous entry of the 3 pebbles radiate outward towards the rim of the bowl, Bentov further asks the reader to visualize that the surface of the water is suddenly flash frozen so that the ripple pattern is preserved instantly. The ice is removed, leaving the 3 pebbles still laying at the bottom of the bowl. Then the ice is exposed to powerful, coherent source of light, such as a laser. The result will be a 3-dimensional model or representation of the position of the 3 pebbles suspended in midair. Huh? I don't understand how that works. Holograms are capable of encoding so much detail that, for example, it is possible to take a holographic projection of a glass of swamp water and view it under magnification to see small organisms not visible to the naked eye when the glass of water itself is examined. What? Holograms are capable of encoding so much detail that, for example, it's possible to take a holographic projection of a glass of swamp water and view it under magnification to see small organisms not visible to the naked eye when the glass of water itself is examined. I feel like there's something there that I need to understand deeper. Holograms are capable of encoding so much detail. It's really just making me think back to that laser light experiment where you put it against a wall and you can see the numbers and codes and symbols behind reality. It's all just energy and different characters and symbols, it seems. Because the characters and symbols hold energy, which is also making me think of crop circles. It's all so connected, my friends. The crop circles are doing something to us too. The whole concept of holography, despite its scientific implications, has only been known to the physicists since the underlying mathematical principles were worked out by Denis Gabor in 1947. He later won a Nobel Prize for his work. Good for him. Snaps and claps for Denis. Laboratory demonstration of Gabor's work only occurred years later following invention of the laser. As biologist Lyle Watson explains, the purest kind of light available to us is that produced by a laser, which sends out a beam in which all the waves are of one frequency, kind of like that beam of energy we put out 1 billion times more powerful than the sun when we meditate, which sends out a beam in which, like those made by an ideal pebble in a perfect pond. When 2 laser beams touch, they produce an interference pattern of light and dark ripples that can be recorded on a photographic plate, which makes me think of the double slit experiment as well, and the observer effect. And if one of the beams, instead of coming directly from the laser, is reflected first off of an object such as a human face, the resulting pattern will be very complex indeed, but can still be recorded. The record will be a hologram of the face. So they can use lasers to make holograms of your face? What? What am I supposed to do with that? That feels like that ties into cloning and AI and facial recognition somehow in a very weird way, and I don't like that. 13. The part encodes the whole. Of further importance is the fact that even if we dropped our frozen hologram of the ripple pattern on the floor and broke it into a number of pieces, each individual piece would recreate the entire holographic image all by itself. What? So literally all parts of this universe are energy that remembers and can replicate and encode all of the energy. It's like it's that data-centered storage, cosmic storage-centered data brain. I don't know how to... It's like a consciousness data bank that everything is connected to. And I think it connects to all of us getting these spiritual downloads, and the way the algorithm just kind of seems to bring you pieces that fit together into things. It's like we're all remembering parts, and we're all being directed to different parts that make sense, and we're all getting different pieces of this cosmic puzzle and different keys that are unlocking different doors in each other as we're sharing and connecting to this intuition and this cosmic consciousness of the cosmic egg of the universal hologram. Holy shit. The smaller the piece, the fuzzier and more distorted would be the resulting holographic projection, but the fact remains a whole projection would nonetheless be made. This is how movements grow. One lone voice speaking up into the void seems fuzzy and distorted, like with the work that I've been doing. This just tied into my own personal journey, where it seems really scary and lonely being the first person to speak up. But the more you speak up, the more you find other people who resonate with your ideas, who remember and who connect and experience the same things and think the same things and share the same ideas. And then they start speaking up and sharing these things. And then it grows, and then it just cascades into entire systems changing and entire movements and revolutions and things like that being born. You start with a small piece that's fuzzy and distorted and manipulated from that original source energy. And the more you work with it, the more you connect the puzzle pieces and the collective information and that consciousness grid, the more electrical impulses and signals are exchanged, the less fuzzy and less distorted and clearer the holographic projection becomes, the more the collective is waking up. That's why we're all waking up right now together and having these spiritual awakenings and these kundalini awakenings and these chakra activations, is because people like me are questioning this shit. People are meditating on this shit. People are putting out that energy that's 1 billion times more powerful than the sun, and that heartbeat rhythm resonance that's going around the earth in 1/7 of a second completely, and interfering with all of the human fields around the entire earth and the Schumann resonance itself. It's all of our puzzle pieces connecting with each other and interfering with each other in good and bad ways. The key to creating any hologram is that energy in motion must interact with energy in a state of rest, non-motion. Interesting. The key to creating any hologram is that energy in motion must interact with energy in a state of rest, non-motion. So fast and slow energy have to interact to make the hologram, like the Big Bang, like the God particle, like that feedback loop we make where our heart and the feedback loop starts to resonate with its own self and regulate its own self. It's the same energy. In the foregoing example, the pebbles represent energy in motion, while the water, before its agitation by the pebbles, represents energy at a state of rest. To activate, or in effect, to perceive the meaning of a holograph, energy, in this case a coherent light source such as a laser beam, must be passed through the interference pattern generated by interaction between the moving energy and the energy at rest. In the simple example given by Bentov, this requirement was fulfilled by holding the frozen interference pattern in front of the coherent light to project the three-dimensional holographic image, its meaning, into space. So it's all just a holographic projection of energy. As Marilyn Ferguson, auditor of the Brain Mind Bulletin, tells us, another feature of a hologram is its efficiency. Billions of bits of information can be stored in a tiny space. The pattern of the holographic photograph is stored everywhere on the plate. Like talking about how when it breaks up, it can still, every single piece of that can still show you the full projection, even if it's fuzzier. 14. The consciousness matrix. The universe is composed of interacting energy fields, some at rest and some in motion. It is, in and of itself, one gigantic hologram of unbelievable complexity. The universe is, in and of itself, one gigantic hologram of unbelievable complexity. Yeah. According to the theories of Carl Pribom, a neuroscientist at Stanford University, and David Bohm, a physicist at the University of London, the human mind is also a hologram which attunes itself to the universal hologram by the medium of energy exchange, thereby deducing meaning and achieving the state which we call consciousness. With respect to states of expanded or altered consciousness, such as gateway uses, the process operates in the following way. As energy passes through various aspects of the universal hologram and is perceived by the electrostatic fields which compromise the human mind, the holographic images being conveyed are projected upon those electrostatic fields of the mind and are perceived or understood to the extent that the electrostatic field is operating at a frequency and amplitude that can harmonize with and therefore read the energy carrier wave pattern passing through it. Changes in the frequency and amplitude of the electrostatic field, which compromises the human mind, determines the configuration and hence the character of the holographic energy matrix, which the mind projects to intercept, meaning directly from the hologram transmissions of the universe. That was a lot of jargon. Then, to make sense of what the holographic image is saying to it, the mind proceeds to compare the image just received with itself. Specifically, it does this by comparing the image received with that part of its own hologram which constitutes memory, which is how you get stuck in those like negative memory spirals, I think, where you receive like triggers or external input that makes you think of like sad experiences, and then it triggers you to kind of keep going down that memory road of putting yourself in that sad, depressive state that's really hard to get out of, and then going into doom scrolling. By registering differences in geometric form and in energy frequency, the consciousness perceives, as psychologist Keith Floyd puts it, contrary to what everyone knows is so, it may not be the brain that produces consciousness, but rather consciousness that creates the appearance of the brain. It may not be the brain that produces consciousness, but consciousness that creates the appearance of the brain. 15. Brain in phase. The consciousness process is most easily envisaged if we picture the holographic input with a three-dimensional grid system superimposed over it, such that all of the energy patterns contained within can be described in terms of three-dimensional geometry using mathematics to reduce the data to two-dimensional form. It just makes me think of the scalar interference and brainwave monitoring stuff. Bentov states that scientists suspect that the human mind operates on a simple binary go/no-go system, as do all digital computers. We're just computers in a simulation. Therefore, once it superimposes a three-dimensional matrix over holographic information it wishes to interpret and reduces that information mathematically to two-dimensional form, it can completely process it using its fundamental binary system, just as any computer made by the hand of man can process volumes of data and make various comparisons between the data and information stored in its digital memory. That's crazy. Our minds operate in the same way, perceiving by comparison only. Bentov states that the proposition this way: our whole reality is constructed by constantly making such comparisons. Whenever we perceive something, we always perceive differences only. In states of expanded consciousness, the right hemisphere of the brain, in its holistic, non-linear, and non-verbal mode of functioning, acts as the primary matrix or receptor for this holographic input, while by operating in phase or coherence with the right brain, the left hemisphere provides the secondary matrix through its binary, computer-like method of functioning to screen further the data by comparison and reduce it to a discrete two-dimensional form. So basically what I'm hearing is not only is there a bunch of manipulation and distortion purposely happening to the information and the energetic connection that we have with each other, ourselves, and the entire planet and universe as a whole, but we also cause a lot of it within ourselves because our brains are constantly misinterpreting the information. They're trying to take information in one form and format it into basically a completely different form. Like taking it, like trying to alter your aspect ratio from like a TikTok video to a YouTube video, where it goes from being long form to like that. It doesn't render quite properly because it's all a simulation, it's all a hologram, it's all energy That's crazy. 16, evaluation. To the extent that Gateway succeeds in bringing about a refinement in energy matrix of the mind, it succeeds in expanding or altering human consciousness so that it can perceive without recourse to the intercession of the physical senses, such that ever more of the universal hologram, not, of course, accessible by sense perception. That's a crazy little aside to put in there. Not, of course, accessible by sense perception. The universal hologram, can ultimately be perceived and understood. Marilyn Ferguson has written that the theories of Pribram and Baum appear to account for all transcendental experience, paranormal events, and even normal perceptual oddities. So wait. So they're saying our interpretation of this energy and this universal hologram appears to account for all transcendental experience, paranormal events, and even normal perceptual oddities. All of the ghosts, all of the energy, all of the woo-woo is all just energy feedback being interpreted or misinterpreted differently. She goes on to say of Pribram, currently he is proposing a startling, all-encompassing model that is generating considerable excitement among those intrigued by the mysteries of human consciousness. His holographic model marries brain research to theoretical physics. It accounts for normal perception and simultaneously takes the paranormal and transcendental experiences out of the supernatural by explaining them as part of nature. Like certain strange discoveries of quantum physics, the radical reorientation of this theory suddenly makes sense of paradoxical sayings of mystics throughout the ages. Yeah, so our ancestors weren't crazy. They weren't wrong. They were just really fucking tapped into this original source energy because they didn't have the distraction, the manipulation, the distortion, the LED lights, the scalar interference, the algorithmic energy harvesting, every single part of it, you know? I'll be right back. Someone's buzzing the doorbell. Never mind. Someone else got it. Okay. Let's get back into this. Oh my gosh. Alright. Where was I? Counts for normal perception. 17. Self-cognition. To complete our outline of the process by which the mind achieves and exercises consciousness, we must also describe the mechanism which accounts for the aspect of human thought that differentiates it from the consciousness of plants or animals, i.e. self-cognition. Humans not only know, but they know that they know. They are able to monitor the process of their own thinking and maintain an awareness over it. Makes me think of the song Overthinker by Enzo, if you haven't heard that. Solid song, go do yourself a favor. Awesome Alan Watts intro. Moreover, they can conduct a comparative assessment, evaluating the functioning of their thought processes against various objective standards they have adopted. And then I want to show you guys the consciousness energy grid. It says, left hemisphere consciousness grid acts like the mind's computer software to reduce input from the right hemisphere to verbal symbols and concepts. And then the right hemisphere consciousness grid reduces three-dimension holographic image to two-dimensional go and no-go forms. I think it says it's cut off at the end there. Look at that, though. That's how they show our mind. I can't wait to show y'all the universal, the cosmic egg later on. That one looks really cool. Human consciousness can do this because it has the capacity to duplicate aspects of its own hologram, project them out, perceive that projection, put it through comparison with the memory aspect, where its evaluation standards of measure are stored, of its own hologram, and measure or sense the differences using three-dimensional geometry and then binary go/no-go pulse to yield verbal cognition about the self. So basically we're doing like energetic sonar at all times is what I'm getting. Do y'all get that too? I would love to like hear some of y'all's thoughts on all of this, because this is This is blowing my mind, how all of this is connecting. 18. Time-space dimension. Up to this point in our discussion of the gateway process has been relatively simple and easy to follow. Now the fun begins.